Hello, welcome to the Senior Rehab Project, the podcast where the community of rehab clinicians working to advance care for older adults. I'm your host, Nicole Nexon, and this is the State of the SNF. In today's episode, we are going to continue our discussion of functional measures that can be used in your eval in the SNF setting, and today we are going to look at the 6-minute walk test. I like the 6-minute walk test again because continuing on with the 5 times sit to stand and the tug, it's a fairly easy setup. It really doesn't require a lot of training. It does require some space, so we have to finagle that. But also, it doesn't take a lot of equipment, which is really important for a busy day in the SNF. So let's dive in. So let's look at the areas of assessment of the 6-minute walk test. We're going to be looking at aerobic capacity and gait. So that should already kind of clue you into populations that we're looking at. Although some of the recommended populations include the Alzheimer's and progressive dementia, arthritis, brain injury, multiple sclerosis, older adults in various capacities, which is where we're going to focus, Parkinson's disease, pulmonary issues, spinal injuries, stroke, and I've been seeing a lot of heart failure also, which is actually the main reason it's used in my facility is our heart failure patients. If you're looking at a geriatric population, the minimum detectable change is 58.21 meters or 190.98 feet. And the minimally clinically important difference, also known as MCID, would be equal to 50 meters or 164.04 feet. This was determined by a study by Pereira et al. In 2006 in the Journal of American Geriatric Society. The smallest meaningful change also found here would be 20 meters, which is 65.62 feet. And this is where some of the concerns about space start to come in. So let's talk about the actual setup. The score of the 6-minute walk test is the distance a patient walks in 6 minutes. That includes rest breaks, right? So we are looking at continued motion or motion with rest periods over a 6-minute span. If the patient stops to rest, and now I've seen literature saying both standing rests and seated rests are acceptable. Make sure you're documenting and that you're consistent with your patient and how you do it over the span of their treatment. You keep the timer running the whole 6 minutes. So generally what I do is I set an alarm on my phone for 6 minutes, and then when that goes off, that's the end of the test as far as we've gotten, or is as far as we have gotten. And I've had some pretty short ones, I'm not going to lie, like in the 60-foot range. So yeah, that's what we're looking at here. Now, the other things that you want to document is the device used. So walker, cane, rollator, crutches, whatever you're looking at, document that. And then you want to talk about the level of assistance given. And you want to talk about the maximum level of assistance given. Personally, if I get somebody up and they're more than min assist, I'm not doing this test with them. It's going to be a lot of work on my part over the course of the 6 minutes. And also, I'm probably going to spend a lot of that 6 minutes sitting. I have done it with people, particularly those with CHF, and this is where some of my shorter distances have come in. But again, that's my max. I haven't seen anything specifically stating what level assistance is too much on this. Again, because the norms that we're looking at are based on community dwelling older adults, although it is recommended by the MS Edge, the Stroke Edge, and the TBI Edge for use in the SNF setting. But that's not where our normative data is. So again, this is going to be something that you're going to be looking at your patient as compared to themselves and not against a norm, because in the Internal Medicine Journal in 2009, Rescaba et al. Found that less than 350 meters or 1,148.29 feet is associated with increased mortality in COPD, CHF, and pulmonary arterial hypertension. So again, if I'm seeing people in like the 30-foot range, I know these people are at risk for increased mortality for COPD or CHF, which is probably why they are in my SNF, right? What else is helpful to know here? That the minimal detectable change is 58.21 meters or 190.98 feet, with a minimally clinical important difference of 50 meters or 164.04 feet. That was established by Pereira et al. In 2006 in the Journal of American Geriatric Society. And they've also found that a small meaningful change can be found at 20 meters, and that is 65.62 feet. So I've alluded to some of the things that I use, some of the tools that you'll need, but I want to kind of break it down, spell it out for you. So the first thing you're going to need is a stopwatch. Or, like I said, I set a timer on my phone. Most of us have watches we can set timers on right now. So, perfect. A measuring wheel is the recommended way to measure your final distance. That is most definitely the easiest way to do it. And they are fairly easy to get, and they're pretty cheap. You need a chair, and the chair, or more than one chair, how you're setting up your course is going to determine where you want that chair to be. Because if your patient needs to stop and rest, you're going to want to have somewhere where they can sit. You're going to have cones or markings to indicate where to turn. And generally you want those at every 30 feet, right? So 30 feet, I've seen cone markings, and some people can keep going. 30 feet, and then you turn. The setup in the Shirley Ryan Labs says you want a 12-meter hallway, which is 39.37 feet, so that's a little more. The important thing is that you are measuring correctly and you are marking it all down correctly, right? This is where some of our issues may come in space-wise. There is not a lot of space in my building that is not being used. The gym is very busy. The hallways are very busy. I have found that what's helpful is to set up a course in the dining room in the periods that no one's using it. So generally you want to time this out for a period when there's not a meal going on. Sometimes even that gets thrown off. Like I've been bumped out from a birthday party before, in which case I'll set up in a less used hallway and I'll find a space. Most therapists are pretty good if you tell them what they're doing, that they're not going to come in your way. But, you know, nurses, patients, it gets crazy. Like, let's be real, like the SNF gets crazy. There's always traffic. There's always doctors in and out. There's always tests going on. So it's really important if you're going to do this to figure out a space that you can use and a time that you can do it. So sometimes you may have to come back to this one or kind of work your day around it. Some people I hear are lucky enough to have track setups, and I'm a little bit jealous of that because, again, I'm trying to get stuff done in the dining room or in like a hallway where nobody else is, like way down the end in a quieter part of the day. So like, you know, before we leave for work, before I leave to go home. And I tend to come in a little bit later than other people, so I have some leeway before dinner time that I can get some stuff done. So this is definitely something else that you want to think about. And probably I would say your place to set up is going to be the hardest part of conducting this test in the SNF. There's also a note to watch out for a pacing effect, meaning that you set the pace for the patient. You really want to make sure that they are walking at a speed that is comfortable and appropriate for them, and it's not you leading or guiding. So you want to make sure that, you know, obviously you don't want to be in front of them if it's somebody that you're trying to guard, but also you want to make sure that you're not influencing their speed, and that can be something that gets lost. And if you pick a place to perform the test and it gets busy, realize that they might be slowed down, and then you kind of have to start all over again. So that's, you know, it goes back to the whole space issue. Now, another aspect I found while looking at this was that while the 6-minute walk test is sensitive to changes due to commonly used therapies for COPD, it's less relatable with commonly used therapies for heart failure. So you might be wondering, well then, why do we want to use it for heart failure? Well, a couple of reasons. Demers et al. In 2001, the American Heart Journal found that it is highly reproducible and easy to use in patients with heart failure. And then in 2009, in the Circulation Heart Failure, and this is an American Heart Association journal, it was found to be a simple and reliable first-line test for quantification of exercise intolerance for patients with heart failure. So while it may not change, and the changes that you've seen may not be relatable to the therapies used, it is a good way to quantify how exercise intolerant somebody is. And believe me, you will see a change in people over the course of therapy. I mean, remember, what we're actually looking for in a minimally clinical change is 164 feet. I mean, some people, let's be real, 164 feet is already a big deal. But for some people, that gain of 164 feet will come pretty readily, right? So at least you're getting an idea. Again, we can't really compare to normative data because we don't have it for the SNF population. But what we do know is that, like the other tests, like I said, with the timed up and go and the 5 times sit to stand, when you're using it for a score for that patient itself, when you're looking at the patient saying, hey, when you started this, you were only able to walk this many feet over a 6-minute period, and now you're here and I'm helping you less and you've sat down less, so you've taken less periods, that's something that a patient will feel personally is very important, right? So we're looking at something that is important to the patient themselves and for something that is quantifiable for that person. And the retest reliability is really good on this too, across the board in all the reviews that I've seen of it. So you know you're getting good data as long as you are consistent in how you're doing it. This is a win for your patients, and this is a win to make therapy accessible to them and to make it important to them for those patients who are like, I don't feel like I'm getting anywhere. I'm still really out of breath. I still can't do the things that I want to do. Because, at least where I am, I'm seeing patients come in sicker. I'm seeing quicker hospital discharges. And some people are coming in really, really low level. And they're going home still fairly low level, like functional to get around, but, not where they want to be. And to have something where you can look at a significant number of something important that they all want to start walking again. And if you can show that a person has gained in how far they can walk while they've been in therapy, that is something that's going to feel like a win for them personally, and that's going to lead to more buy-in with you, with their home exercise program, with any continuation of therapy that they've already had or will be having in the future. So again, in my building, the focus of this is with our CHFers. We have a specific program for our CHF patients, for people who come in with that diagnosis or a history of that diagnosis, aimed at education, aimed at risk management, aimed at eating habits, signs and symptoms, and this is one of the tests that we include across the board on them. And it's something that everyone can see. So I'd really love to hear if you're using this test, maybe situations where you're using the test in a population that we haven't brought up or thought of. If you have had good results, if you have bad results, if you've seen anything different, if you have any questions about the way this test is applied or set up, let's start chat in the Facebook group. Let's talk about it and let's see what's going on. I love to see the conversations that start about this, because the more we talk about these tests and the more we work to help the other therapists that we work with, maybe who aren't part of this, or who are new and don't understand, or who are overwhelmed by all the other things that we're seeing going on in the SNF, between productivity and the changes in the payment system that are getting people nervous. We still need to focus on patient care, and we're definitely going to need to focus on outcome measures. So let's get those conversations started. And in the meantime, stay funky. I want to thank you for listening to the Senior Rehab Project. If you've gained from this episode, please consider supporting our work. You can become a patron through Patreon, a service that allows people like you to support people like us. You can give as little as $1 a month, or become a game changer for $8.99 a month, where you'll get an awesome Redefine Old mug and access to our monthly meetups. Our last one was about geriatric low back pain and some ideas to help manage that and be more confident in your skills. Just go to seniorrehabproject.com to learn more and find the show notes for this episode. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.